Welcome to the Awaken on Purpose podcast, where each week you'll hear inspirational stories of heart-centered leaders who have awakened to their higher purpose and taken that leap of faith to follow their heart and make an impact in the world. Get ready to be enlightened, empowered, and transformed with your host, Jennifer Spohr.
It is my complete joy and pleasure to welcome to the show today, Purvi-Sonya Davé. Purvi is the CEO and founder of FamTyme. She created FamTyme from her own personal struggles she experienced in her childhood that impacted her mental and emotional well-being growing up. Therefore, she is now determined toward helping others not to have to go through what she did. She has made it her life mission to create a family growth platform through FamTyme, which provides easy, practical resources for parents to implement and empower their children to be more self-aware of their thoughts and emotions, and help parents create an open environment where kids can freely express themselves and create happy, healthy, and strong family bonds. That is a really important mission. Welcome, Purvi.
Oh, wow. When you said all that, I'm like, is that me?
Yes,
Thank you for
that
having
is
me.
you. That is you. I know I've told you many times before, I'm just really passionate about your mission. And I myself, had kind of a rough go of it in my childhood. And I really just from my own life experience and that of other, families that I know, I just really see the huge value, the huge contribution that you're making in the world. And so thank you for that.
I feel like it is my duty if I'm learning and if I'm growing and I have the ability to give back in some way, then I should do so. And I feel really blessed and fortunate to be able to do this work and help others not have to heal themselves as they get older and be whole and complete.
I know that your bio, told us a little bit about what inspired you to do the work that you're doing today. But tell us a little bit more about how you got from where you were to where you are right now. What was kind of that defining moment for you in terms of, okay, I'm becoming this person, I'm going to make this happen?
There were a couple of steps. I wish it was just like one thing that kind of unfolded, but it was one thing after another that helped me unfold, get to where I am today. And I think if I were to pinpoint, it was back in 2016. I was in an interesting place in my life where I remember clearly looking in the mirror, being so disgusted with myself and just asking, why am I so unhappy? What is it? What's causing me this unhappiness? And when you look at me, Jennifer, on the outside, everything is great. I have a really great job. I make good money. I have good family and friends. I mean, everything on the outside was great, but my inner world was just a complete mess. And for the longest time, I never realized how bad my internal dialogue was towards myself. I mean, if I were to describe it, I think I would say I was my own worst enemy. A lot of times people say, other people don't have your back. I didn't have my own back. And that's when I started going on this self-discovery to figure out, why was I like that? It took probably a few months, almost like 6 to 7 months of really understanding myself, doing a lot of meditation, reading books, and challenging my thought process, and really going and figuring out what were some of the points in my life that unfolded to that I wasn't worthy, that I wasn't capable of love, that I had so much fear and doubt put inside of me. That's exactly that I was working to overcome. And a lot of it, I kind of realized, was my upbringing, my childhood. I had 3 different families that I grew up with, so I never had a sense of security in terms of who were my parents. until I was the age of 7. That's when I came to America. Prior to that, I was in India. I lived 2 other families, my mom's older sister and my dad's older brother. And they were amazing people, but it's still like for a child that's between the age of 2 to 7, that's like the critical time of development. And they need that sense of security, love, and belonging. And I didn't have that. And then coming to the States, I had, a third new family, my biological parents and my 2 brothers, and trying to adapt into a new world, new family. All of that was really hard. But at the time, I was just going through whatever was given to me. I didn't really have any saying in the process. And I love my parents, but they just were not the type of people that would, communicate like how was I feeling or what was I experiencing. They didn't have the ability or the know-how to do so. It wasn't something that they were taught. So most of my life, I feel like I suppressed so much of what I was experiencing. And one of the biggest thing that I know in my life that really impacted me outside of my upbringing was an instance when I was 16. I was going on my first potential date. That's what I thought. And I didn't tell my parents that I was going on a date because they were really overly strict parents, and told them I had a after school event. And this guy, picked me up and thought we were going to a restaurant. And it's like, oh, we're going to stop off at my friend's place for a while. We're going to hang out. So we ended up hanging out for a while. And that night was the night that changed my whole life. I was sexually assaulted by 3 men from that building. And it was something I don't even remember how I made it home, or there are so many parts of that night that I have blacked out because I didn't want to. It was just my way of protecting myself. And that happened almost 24 years ago. So it's, aging myself right now. But it was something that I didn't know how to talk about. I knew my parents would be mad that I, left the house without telling them, and that they would be really angry. And I just didn't have any outlet to go and talk to anybody. So I clearly remember telling myself that, like, I'm going to take this to my grave. I never want to think about this in my life. And I'm just going to pretend this never happened. And I lived my life going on. And that's when I became the worst of me. It came out. I had no control. Something bad happened to me. And I was just never able to get the help that I needed to heal from those wounds, from that trauma. And until I finally found, back in 2016, when I was, going through this journey to figure out why I was so unhappy, I finally realized, like, this very secret that I was holding on to was the key to allowing myself to be happy, allowing myself to love myself, value who I am, and tell myself that I am worth everything that I want in life, that I am whole, I'm not broken. And I just had to really fill myself up. I had to love myself like I've never have, because I haven't. And from there, I really just, something inside of me said, I wish I had a better emotional connection with my parents to be able to talk about the challenges and the problems that I was experiencing when I was younger. So that way I could have communicated. I could have gotten the help that I needed to get. And for me, even though I suffered internally throughout those years, I realized, like, other people don't have to. And if I can provide an outlet through technology where kids and parents can have a healthy bond with one another, where they can openly express and talk about what they're going through, then they don't have to internalize, feel like that they have nobody in their life. And I just never wanted another child to feel the pain that I went through. And I think that's my empathy. I feel, I care about others and I want to see others succeed. And therefore, I felt like this was my calling and this was my duty to give it all I can to put this out there. That was a lot.
There is just so much wisdom in what you shared. I'm going to pick out a couple of the things. One thing that you mentioned is really key is that children typically between the ages of 2 and 7, right? That is one of the most critical times. And I can concur with that, based upon my own life experience, but that really of all of the clients that I work with as well, almost everything that we have in terms of limiting fear-based type of beliefs, whether it's being afraid of something, feeling like we're less than about something, it all goes back to what we initially pick up within that age. So it's so important as those years, what we learn during that time, it can impact us into adulthood and for the rest of our lives. And then what you mentioned later on about the sexual assault that you shared, and I'm very sorry that happened. You talked about suppressing, right? Not, not remembering or not wanting to remember and holding that in. And it's so important for us to allow ourselves to process our traumas, our experiences, our feelings, as painful as they may be. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this, but when we continue to suppress something, it can manifest itself in other ways in our life, through whether it's through behaviors or addictions or any other number of ways. Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think when we don't have an outlet of expressing whatever it is that we're going through, it does tend to, our mind is prone to thinking of protection, protecting you. And a lot of time that protection comes from a negative place. So one thing that I've learned through my research is that our mind is consumed of about 70 to 80,000 thoughts a day. And about 80, that's a lot of thoughts. Yeah. And about 85% of them are reoccurring thoughts, that things that you just are replaying in your subconscious. You don't even recognize it. And most of that is negative. So if we don't become aware that this is something that is a problem, it does, take a life of its own. And like you said, it can come into a form of addiction, something that where you start internalizing and creating a negative path in terms of your own identity, what you think towards yourself, and how you feel towards yourself. And I think having the ability to be able to release whatever you're feeling allows us to be more open to think of other possible solutions than the only ones that we're thinking in our own head. And it helps us think of more perspectives, of other ways of thinking than only, I must be horrible, or I caused this. I know many kids at times, they feel that they are the cause of their parents' divorce because of something that happened, or they feel that they hurt somebody because of something that happened. Instead, it was a situation, a circumstance that they had no control over, but somehow they internalize that and they blame themselves unknowingly. And if they don't express that and don't talk about it, they feel like they're horrible. And therefore, I feel like it's so important to keep that open dialogue, especially with kids, because like you said, that age of 2 to 7 is so critical for those early development years, where everything that you say is, they take that to heart. So we have to be really careful in terms of the words that we use. And a lot of times if you say, you're stupid, they automatically feel that they're stupid. It's not, the fact is that they did something stupid. which is completely different. We know, like, I know you're a smart person, but what you did was really, was not right. It was stupid, whatever word you want to use. I say we have to be really careful with the words we use as well.
We absolutely do. And I could have a several hour conversation with you about this.
I'm sure. Yes. It's a big topic.
I'm so passionate about this topic. One thing I want to mention on this note is that most people in the world are just doing the best that they know how to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's so important. Awareness is so important. What would you suggest in terms of, beyond the work that you're doing? Are there like other places or other resources that you could suggest that a parent could go to in terms of becoming more educated, raising their level of awareness, and in terms of the importance of having that open communication?
In today's environment, there's so many resources for parents. I would say first is becoming aware that this is a pattern that you don't want to bring down and teach your kids. And ask in terms of, what are the things that you wish you learned when you were younger that you would want to teach your kids? Many parents think about all the things that they want to give to their kids instead of teach them all the lessons that they wish they had learned when they were younger, now that they're older. And when you ask that question, that's when you can start to think about, in terms of, how can I go about learning this stuff myself if you don't know it, and then teaching it to your kids. There's so many resources online, a lot of Facebook groups, positive parenting. I love what they do over there. A lot of different parenting Facebook groups that they can take part in, webinars that they can attend, go to seminars, start investing in terms of understanding their parenting style. And is that parenting style helping or empowering the kids, or is it handicapping them in some way? And I think a lot of times it's just having that dialogue with the kids in terms of, like, it's a hard question for a parent to ask, but I think it's an important question to ask, is, how do the kids feel about how the parents are parenting? Do they feel that they are able to be independent and make their own decisions, but still have the parents in their life, where they can go to and talk to them? Or do they feel like the parents are hovering and being a helicopter parent, and they have no flexibility in terms of discovering who they are? So I think these are important questions that parents need to think about and question themselves in terms of, what are the things that they wish that they learned when they were younger, and also create that dialogue with their kids in terms of how they feel overall. Are they happy? Do they love, the conversations that they have, or do they feel smothered, or whatever it is? We have to respect, everybody has their own ways of communicating, and we have to adapt to the other person's needs.
Absolutely. And I love what you said to start off with about just simply asking yourself the question, what would I have wanted to learn, or what would I have wanted to experience that I didn't in my childhood? I think that is a fantastic place to start as well. Purvi, what you've taken on, and your story and the work that you've chosen to dedicate your life to, it's just really courageous, and inspiring. And I'm sure everyone listening would love to know, there's a lot of people out there who are in a place where they're feeling called to do more, right? They want to make a bigger impact in the world, but maybe they're feeling held back. What is the number one piece of advice you would have for those people?
Jennifer, if you had asked me 3 years ago, what would I want to do? I would have never in my wildest dreams think this is what I would be doing, because I'm not married. I don't have kids, and I'm nowhere near any of this type of environment where I was. But sometimes you just have to listen to your heart, and you have to listen in terms of, what is your soul telling you to do? And it can be scary, it can be difficult, but when you embrace it, you will open yourself up to something even more amazing. So one of the questions that I think it's important for people to ask themselves is, what sort of contribution do I want to make in the world? A lot of times we ask, like, what do I want to be when I grow up? I would say, ask yourself, how do you want to contribute to the world? And that contribution will get you to think in terms of what's important to you and why is that important? And that will help you determine to pursue a calling that you may be thinking about pursuing, but still on the fence. So I think it's just really going in and figuring out what is important to you and why that is important. And if that's something that you really care about, and if you don't see yourself doing anything else but that, I would say go for it.
I love that advice. There's a Zen proverb that comes to mind: leap and the net will appear.
Exactly. Yeah. You gotta have faith.
Yes. Follow your joy. And I firmly believe that God does not put dreams on our heart that are not meant to be achieved.
And I truly believe that we all have a purpose to figure out exactly what is important to us, whatever that may be to you, to fulfill that. Because so much of our life, we've been told what success is, or how society, what society standards of success is. And through that, we forget in terms of what our passions are, what's something that's meaningful and purposeful to us, because we go and follow the herd mentality of what everyone else was taught to do. And we never really go and, let's say if you're, you want to make amazing food, and if through that also feed the homeless or something, you're afraid of what people are going to think. And we don't go and do other amazing projects that make our world better. And you can also monetize from that. And I think people need to get away from that fear mentality that you can only be successful if you're working for an amazing company or something. You can still do meaningful, purposeful work. Look for companies that are in alignment with the type of mission that you want to bring into the world.
Absolutely. Anything is truly possible. It's really just about following our joy. And when we do that, and when we're aligned, all the other stuff, the money, all the other resources, everything else we want and need will fall into place. Purvi, how can someone find you?
I can be reached on any of the social media platforms. My handle is Purvi, Purvidave 007.
I love that. 007. Very so.
On any of the social media platforms. Try to make it easy.
Definitely memorable. Very easy to remember that one. Purvi, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and for just how brave and amazing and inspiring you are. I know, to me, and most definitely to so many other people out there. Thank you.
I genuinely appreciate you. My gratitude towards you for the amazing work that you're doing. And thank you so much for having me and your guests as well, Jennifer. I love the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Purvi.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Awake and On Purpose podcast. Please visit us and subscribe to the podcast at awakeandonpurpose.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can connect with your higher purpose and take that leap of faith to make your impact in the world, visit us at jenniferspor.com. And while you're there, be sure to join our email list for exclusive offers and a weekly dose of inspiration.